Let's talk periods. I am aware that not many people were taught about what is normal and maybe what to expect when you get your period. So let's go over some basic information. These are statistics from the internet and my personal experience. Everybody's periods are different. Our bodies are not the same. Our periods are not the same, neither are our needs. So these might vary a little bit from person to person, but bear with me. We're going to go through some normal things. So the average period is about 5 days long. So it can be shorter or longer. So somewhere between 2 and 7 days is normal. If it's much longer than that, you should definitely be seen by a doctor because there might be some possible causes for that. When your period first starts, it's going to be called what is spotting. Okay, so spotting is just like little drops of blood, and it can be red or brown, sometimes even black looking. That's totally normal. It's just kind of old blood that's been sitting in there for a while, so it just hasn't flowed out of you as quickly as the red blood does. That's totally normal, nothing to worry about as long as there's no smell, it's not green or pink or yellow, that kind of thing. So this is an example of what spotting might look like. It might be a little smear. As your flow becomes heavier, it will end up looking more like this. Red is fresh blood, so that usually means your heavier flow. And that usually starts on day 2 to 3 and lasts a couple days. So your period will start really light the first day or two, and then get really heavy, and then get light again, and then taper off, and then eventually stop. And you might experience more spotting at the end of your period. For a couple days, that's totally normal. Again, it might be brown or kind of blackish, just because it's older blood. So this is an example of what it can look like, again with some browns, totally normal. Don't freak out if it's brown. I know it's not like the color you expect to see when you think of blood, but it's totally normal, I promise. People experience blood clots when they have their period. That's totally normal. Again, as long as you're not having multiple blood clots that are larger than the size of a quarter. If they're larger than that and you have multiple of them, please mention it to your doctor and get checked out, because blood clots can be a sign of a couple different things. So just mention it. Just keep these things in mind. Blood clots are normal as long as they're not really big or experiencing lots of them. But if you have mentioned it to your doctor and they said it's normal for you, again, we're all different. I wouldn't be alarmed because your doctor obviously knows what's up. When your period is really light like this and you're experiencing some spotting, you can wear a liner. You can wear a liner for discharge too, because before your period starts, you're going to ovulate and you're going to get cervical mucus that will be really sticky and stringy and kind of messy. You can wear a liner for those days too. If you don't want it in your underwear, that's totally fine. So wear a cloth liner or a disposable liner. When you're spotting like this, or just have smears of blood, change your pad as often as you want. You can change every restroom break, or you can change it once or twice a day. That's totally fine too. When your period becomes more heavy, if you have a heavy flow, you're going to probably change your pad. You can go around 8 hours without changing your pad, but if your flow is really heavy, you might find you have to change your pad every 2 to 4 hours, and that's normal if it's normal for you. If it's a change in your flow and your flow wasn't normally that heavy before and it's all of a sudden really, really heavy this period, again, mention it to your doctor, okay? There is different bleeding styles. Did you know that? Some people bleed forward, some people bleed up the backside, and the blood will travel up the butt crack. Totally normal. Some blood stays in the center of your pad and will like to flow out towards the wings. All those are normal bleeding styles. So this is an example of what your pad could look like if you were a front bleeder. All the blood will want to run forward, or if you're a back bleeder, it could go this way. That's totally normal. You're not abnormal. We all experience bleeding patterns differently. And as you age and as you have children, stuff like that, it might change again too every time. So that's not to be worried about. You are using a tampon, make sure you change your tampon every 4 to 6 hours. Leave it in minimal time as possible. Choose the lowest absorbency for your need that day. So if you're having like a moderate flow day, don't pick a super tampon, okay? It will stick to you and it's really hard to pull out if it's not fully saturated. So make sure you pick the lowest absorbency that you can and change it really, really often. Same for cloth tampons too. If you're using a menstrual cup, you can wear a menstrual cup up to 12 hours at a time. If you are having a heavier period, you might have to empty it every 2 to 4 hours. That's totally normal. Again, as long as it's normal for you and it's not a sudden change in your period, that's nothing to worry about. You can even put in a menstrual cup before your flow starts. If you're tracking your period and you know it's going to be starting, say like tomorrow, you can put your cup in tonight. That way tomorrow you don't have to deal with any messes in your underwear or the bed, anything like that. Make sure you empty it up to 12 hours, but you can totally put it in before your period starts too, so that's pretty cool. So we get a lot of questions about cloth pads and cloth liners. You can wear cloth liners every single day if you wanted. Did you know that? They're totally breathable. They're all made of breathable fabrics, so you can wear them every day. Disposable liners you should not wear every day because they're very, very plasticky and they don't allow things to breathe down there. So you're going to have a higher chance of getting some sort of infection or rash. You're going to feel sweaty and just not comfortable. So cloth liners you can wear every single day if you want. Disposable ones limit to when it's actually needed, like ovulation, discharge, or spotting days. So try to limit those ones, okay? If you're using disposables, avoid scented pads. The scents are really not good for anybody and they make smells worse. Cloth pads don't have the same smell as disposables because it's not full of the same chemicals. So the only smell you're going to get with cloth pads is like a high coppery smell if you have a high iron content in your blood. But people can't smell it. You'd have to literally be like smelling the pad to smell it. So when you're using a cloth pad, you can get a pad wrapper or a wet bag to store your pads in during the day while you're out and about, and then on wash day, dump them in the washer. I have wash instructions too if you're curious about cloth pads. So when your period first starts, it might be fairly irregular. That's totally normal. It can take a good couple years for your period to kind of regulate itself and get on an actual like schedule. That's totally normal. So you might skip a couple months and then it might be there, it might be heavier, it might be lighter. That's all totally normal when you're first starting your period. So don't be alarmed about that. If after a couple years your period is still very irregular, or it comes very, very heavy, and you're having to change your pad more than every couple hours, definitely mention it to your doctor and get checked out because there can be a lot of things that can cause that. PCOS, endometriosis. There's a whole bunch of different things. So get checked out if you're having a really painful period, or your periods are really, really heavy, or you have a change in periods that are not normal for you, like your bleeding is substantially heavier, larger clots, that kind of thing. Get checked out, okay? That was a basic rundown. If you guys have more questions, let me know. Happy to help.